Welcome. We're glad you're here. We're so thankful to be back in person. Welcome back to Food for Life. My name is Cheryl McWilliams. I'm a wellness specialist here at Midcoast Parkview Health. And I'm super excited to have my friend, my dear friend, Lyn Howe, here with us this evening. Who's going to present several different recipes for you that can be used in different ways. And, you know, cooking takes a little while. And if you can do something that can be used in different ways and in different times, that's really awesome because it shortens the time that it takes. So thank you, Lyn, for being here. And I'm excited to taste your stuff.
So as probably most of you know, you will go home with samples. So you'll be able to try these things out at home. I wish we had nice big samples for you, but at least it's a sample and you can try it out in more ways if you like. So I realized why I came up with this concept for doing this tonight is I was thinking about sometimes there's many days when you're in a hurry. Maybe you'll have some guests coming in or you need to prepare a meal quickly for a group of people. And I have found utilizing these sauces to be hugely valuable because I can combine them in different ways and make all different meals out of, utilizing the same ones. And so it takes a meal from being humdrum to really tasty. And if you have guests come, then that's good. Or even if you don't have guests come, it's always good to have something that's kind of feeds your heart. Yes. So I think we'll start off tonight with a dill dressing. And with the dill dressing, this is probably my top favorite salad dressing. And what we always have to remember about cashews is that they need to be rinsed. And the next time I come, I will bring a good resource for buying cashews if any of you are interested in buying them in bulk. They buy them straight from Vietnam, I think. Anyway, this farm, they have a big barn and they buy the cashews and they bring them over and wash them and package them and then sell them direct. So I think it's a really good resource and it makes it possible to buy them a lot less expensively. So this recipe is so easy. 1 cup of cashews, 1 cup of water. So I find it's easy to buy my seasonings in bulk because we have a lot of food that flows through our house. And it's also
a lot of guests that flow through too.
So this is onion powder. So it calls for 1.5 teaspoons.
More's good.
That's good. So the fun thing about in this recipe, if you're in a hurry, you can use the powder, and that's what I usually do. But if you do have some fresh onions and fresh garlics, you can sub out for the onion. You can sub out 1.5 tablespoons of fresh onion, and for the garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic. You can sub out 1 garlic clove. Probably not a huge one. So 1/2 teaspoon of garlic. I have found, as probably many of you have found during COVID, that I am now ordering more things. Is anyone else doing that? Like for buying things, it's so nice to just order them. And I have found one excellent resource for buying things like dillweed is essentialorganicingredients.com. And if you buy enough, if you have quite a few things you need to buy, it's free shipping. So anyway, but this dill is so fragrant. So in speaking about buying your spices and these, I find that it's more and more helpful to me to buy them in bulk. And I would particularly recommend essentialorganicingredients.com for dill weed because it smells absolutely delicious and the flavor is excellent. Our food is only as good as our ingredients. And This dill is really good. And so
Does it come like that, or is it
It-
seed? Do you have to grind your own seed?
no, it comes just like this.
Okay.
The weed comes like this, and the seed comes in a bag, the same. So you can't have too much. So I always put a heaping teaspoon or more because it tastes so good. And then the only last remaining thing is lemon juice and salt. And for years and years, I did fresh lemons, and I still like to squeeze a fresh lemon. But I have 3 daughter-in-laws, and I'm learning a lot from my daughter-in-laws. And one of the things I've learned is that, you know, it's not so bad to have a bottle of juice in your refrigerator. And I've found that organic lemon juice and organic lime juice are astonishingly reasonable. I thought they would be wildly expensive, but they are not.
They're cheaper than.
They might even be cheaper than fresh, and it's delicious. So I'm not saying never use a fresh lemon, never use a fresh lime. I'm just saying it's not a bad thing to have some of this in your cupboard, because days when you're busy, days when you need to fix a meal really quick, you'll be thankful. You need a third of a cup. Mm-hmm.
So this is a.
That's a third. A third of a cup.
Third of a cup.
Mm-hmm. No.
Do you want a touch of this?
No.
You can put a little pepper flakes in here if you want. And that works, spices it up, but you don't have to. And then we'll turn it on. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound good. If it's grainy and you don't have a powerful blender, just soak the cashews and then it blends fine. I don't like grainy salad dressing, gritty. I like it creamy, and cashews need to be blended hard. I don't know if that was long enough, but it's all I could stand.
So let's talk about some ways that we could use this salad dressing. Of course, obviously, it would be wonderful like on a green salad. But I want to give you some more ideas. Another thing that's really good, say you cook some beans and you would like to put something on top of it that kind of had a nice sour flavor to it. Some dill dressing on top of beans is delicious. Another thing that's really nice with is like if you're making a tomato sandwich in the summertime, it's if you put, you know, depending on how many cashews you add, of course, if you add a few more, it's thicker, a few less, it's less thick. But after that sits in the refrigerator, it will get thicker. And so it's a little bit more like a mayonnaise or a sour cream. So it makes a really nice sandwich.
You can't beat it with tomato sandwiches. You'd rather have that than mayonnaise, at least I would. It's just great. And put in more cashews. You can make it so thick that it's almost like butter if you have a good enough blender. Or if you let it sit in the refrigerator, it'll sit right up so you can use a knife just like you would mayonnaise with it. And it's a wonderful dressing on bread. It's really tasty with tomatoes.
So this is a super versatile and useful dressing. So the next one I'd like to talk to you about is the peanut dressing. And the peanut dressing is also super useful. And the nice thing about the peanut dressing is that you can use it for summertime recipes, and you can also use it in the wintertime really wonderfully well. So some of the things that I do with this in the summertime is I will use it as an adjunct for a kale salad, or I will add it to some things that are cold. but in the wintertime, it's really nice. I don't know if any of you have tried bowls. Have any of you tried the bowls where you kind of stack things on top of each other? You can start off with a rice or a buckwheat noodles layer on the bottom, and then you can have some beans of any type of your choice, and then either some kale or some, whatever vegetable you would enjoy next, and then put some peanut sauce on top, and it's just delicious. Really, really nice. And another thing that I really like to do with the peanut dressing is if I have some mixed vegetables in my freezer, particularly broccoli and, frozen vegetables in the freezer are a real friend. Because if you take some frozen vegetables and steam them, and chop up some tofu and mix it in and steam it all together, and then add some peanut sauce to it, it makes like a Thai vegetable dish that's really fast and absolutely delicious. It's really, it's the kind of food that makes you feel all comfortable and good on a cold day.
Okay, so we have put 1 cup of water in the blender and now 1 cup of peanut butter.
Do you have a recipe?
It's right there. I was reading it.
So you've made a double recipe?
Yeah.
Okay, Tim is making a double recipe. Because,
1 cup water.
So I usually use a half a cup of water and a half a cup peanut butter.
Okay, so I'm making a double
He's making a double recipe.
It said 1 cup of water.
You did. You were right. Unfortunately, this is the recipe that I changed. You have the current one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I wanted to show you something.
This is what they have.
Yeah, thank you.
I will make a Post-it note on the peanut sauce. There are lots of people out there who are sensitive to peanuts, and you can use almond butter or cashew butter. I have a daughter that cannot do peanuts, and I really missed the peanut sauce because I really enjoy it. And I tried it with different nut butters, and it works. It's a different flavor, but I found the almond is as close to the peanut better than cashew, but just a Post-it note.
Thank you, Cheryl. I wanted to show you something else. So another one of my daughter-in-laws taught me this year that's been incredibly valuable. And so how many of you have looked at a recipe and it says fresh ginger or fresh garlic, and you'll say, wow, I'd really like to make that recipe, but I don't have any fresh ginger in the house, or alternatively, I don't have time to do that. So what she taught me is if you buy ginger, if you have some organic ginger that you find on sale, or the same with garlic, and you just put it through a food processor, mince it up, and then you pack it into a silicone tray like this and freeze it. Then when it's frozen, you just flex it and they pop out, and you can put them in a Ziploc bag. And it's been,
They come out like that.
so this,
That's ginger.
oh, that's ginger. That one's kind of thawed. But it's so handy because now if I need ginger or garlic, I just grab one out of my freezer. And, for days when I'll have lots of grandchildren at the house, or I have to do something at the garden and I don't have extra time, I particularly wanted to show you that because for garlic and for ginger, it's extremely useful.
Lynn, do they just put the article alone, like, say, garlic or ginger? Just it, add nothing to it?
Nothing. Just run it through your food processor and pack it in here. And then what I do is I'll pack it in and then take a spatula, wipe it across the top, and freeze it, and it works absolutely great. Yeah.
How much garlic?
So, the thing about garlic is there's, for people who really love garlic and people who love it not so much. In our house, we really like garlic. I think one's plenty.
I'll
But
choose a big one.
Choose in our garden, we have some large ones that have a huge punch.
But it's a double recipe. Do you want
But
two.
2 is good. So you can use either Tamari or Bragg's liquid aminos. So here you need 4 tablespoons.
They taste similar. Their soy sauce would work as well.
No. Now, some people like to put lemon in their peanut sauce. I don't, but if you enjoy it, you could try it out and see if you like it. I don't think I put it on my recipe there. No, I don't use it at home. But you could try it if you liked it. I know I have some in my family that like lemon and some that don't. I like it just fine without it. And adding honey in kind of gives it a 4 tablespoons.
4 tablespoons of honey? I've never heard you add that much.
So when we cook in the kitchen, Tim doesn't actually measure. He just does this.
This
So-
is a new thing for
So
me.
we're trying to be good here.
Yeah, what you will find is you don't need very much of this, and it's really potent, and so
This has less
that
sodium.
has less sodium than some products, and actually you have less sodium if you use that than if you use salt.
So that's it. Oh, so except one thing. I like to add curry. Yes, thank you. So this is Madras curry powder. You know, with curry, there are so many different flavors, and you can actually, it's not essential to add curry powder. It's just kind of, if you like that kind of a extra,
Half teaspoon.
or a teaspoon, it's fine. You can add as little or as much as you like. And we don't, you know, I put kind of my general concept down on the recipe, but,
And you can make your own curry powder.
right.
Cheryl did that recently.
That was true.
Chili powder.
I did chili powder and curry powder
Yeah.
separate
Right.
times.
Excellent.
And the nice thing about adding these spices, they're really good for you. They're really potent sources of antioxidants. And that's good, especially if it tastes good. And then you just blend it. And you don't have to blend this one as long. And it smells really good. And it tastes good. You can make it thicker if you're making fresh wraps, like rice wraps, and you don't want it to run out the bottom. Add a little more peanut butter.
Or less water.
Or less water, yeah. I like more because then you get more. But this works really well, too.
So our last one, I'm trying not to delay you getting to learn what Tim has to say too long. So our last one, and this one has been a top favorite for us. And with a cheese sauce, you know, I think we think of cheese sauce and we automatically think of pasta and we think of pizzas. But the cheese sauce we have found to be amazing on a whole lot of various things are really nice. One thing that we really like to do is to bake potato and put the cheese sauce on top of that, serve it with some broccoli, and you have a beautiful meal that's very simple but tastes wonderful. And I've personally really been enjoying trying to say, instead of trying to fix an extravagant entree or something, just to think in terms of baking potatoes and putting something delicious on top and serving some greens, because the simple meals just seem to somehow, I do well with them. So to make this, to make a cheese sauce, we again are back with our cashews. And it calls for 1/3 cup of cashews. A cup of water. If you could rinse these. Good, thank you, dearie. And the key thing with making cheese sauce is 2 key ingredients. One is the peppers and the other is the yeast flakes. So in the terms of the peppers, you can either use one in a jar, a roasted red pepper or a red pepper in a jar, or you can use a fresh pepper, fresh red pepper, and they both work.
You gotta open it.
Yeah, so this calls for can you open it? With your
I don't know about you, but sometimes it's really difficult to open these jars. If you have trouble, just stab the top with a knife, and that works really well.
Yes. One of the important ingredients for this as well is a thickening agent. And so on your recipe it says cornstarch. And if you do use cornstarch, I just want to heartily encourage you to get an organic cornstarch, because corn, along with soybeans and some other things, I think are highly important ingredients to try and get organic. But there are other things you can use to thicken. So I just wanted to mention them. The arrowroot powder works well to thicken, as well as tapioca powder. Both all work really well for thickeners. Okay, so you'll see we need salt, teaspoon of salt, 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt.
Is that sea salt or iodized salt or what?
This is sea salt.
Actually, it's not. It's pink Himalayan salt, but it is a complete salt.
Yeah.
You can actually use less because it has a little more rounded and salty flavor both. If you have just sodium chloride and you taste it versus a complete salt, you'll soon decide that tastes good. But you don't get iodine with it like you do iodinated salt.
So these are nutritional yeast flakes, and I don't know if any of you have not encountered them before, but they do give a cheesy flavor. Like, obviously, if you make a cheese sauce, it's not going to taste precisely like cheese, and I don't think that's really the goal. The goal is just to try and make something that's tasty and heartwarming and good. So this, we need 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast flakes.
Okay, so we don't have 1/4 cup measure, and I wouldn't use a measure at all, but I'm going to do 1/2 of a half. How about that? Does that equal 1/4?
That's good. That's perfect. So I wanted to show you these red pepper flakes. These are chili pepper flakes. And I have found that even just a really small pinch of them kind of gives a nice...
I like a pinch too. That works.
So we need onion powder and garlic powder, and we have the salt, and add the cornstarch, and we're done.
Cornstarch.
Okay, we'll add the cornstarch. So after this one is blended, though, as not like the other ones, this one has to be heated. You have to bring it to a boil on the stove, and you have to stir it constantly so that it...
Anybody got a pocket knife? I got it. We're all set. Okay, how much do you put in?
2 tablespoons. So 2 tablespoons of cornstarch or arrowroot or tapioca.
Got cornstarch on my shirt. Do you think that'll thicken me up? Maybe that's the reason I see so many thick people. They have too much cornstarch on them. I don't know.
So we have 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder and 1/4 of garlic.
That's good enough. Just put it in.
Okay, I think we're done.
And then you blend it, and we won't do the second part to that tonight, and that is you heat it in a pan and stir it constantly while you're heating it until it thickens so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And it works very easily, and this does not last long because it gets eaten. I think it would last, again, a week and a half, 2 weeks in the refrigerator.
Or not,
But
I don't know.
it's tasty. And there it is. Then you just pour it into a pan and heat it, and it tastes good. And you can put it on, Lynn said you can put it on potatoes. And if you really want something that looks good, if you put that nice orange cheese on a purple potato, it looks really good. And then you put some broccoli beside it. You've heard the adage, eat the rainbow. Well, we're pretty close then, right? That nice purple color, and they're tasty.
A couple Post-it notes. The nutritional yeast is a great source of vitamin B12, but it's the Red Star brand that is. So when you buy your nutritional yeast, if you can find the Red Star brand, and some of your bulk bins, they'll actually label it as Red Star. I always buy mine in bulk because it's cheaper. If they don't label it as Red Star, then I ask. The other thing is about garlic. So, you know, one of these is a clove of garlic, right? Versus the head. I used to have my husband do a cooking demonstration for us on occasion, and he did this cheese sauce. And we put in 3 cloves of garlic, fresh garlic, into this recipe, 3 cloves of garlic. Well, he quadrupled the recipe, and he thought a clove was a head. The man put 12 heads of garlic into the cheese sauce. No mosquitoes bit him that summer. Yeah. Give us just a minute here, we'll get cleaned up, and then we'll get going.